Sorry.
Welcome back to Meet the Leaders. I'm Debbie Duham, and I'm here with Assemblyman Scalera, and we're talking about lots of things that are going on in New Jersey, and including the Homeland Security. Let's segue right in with that, because you were talking about the public-private partnership and how important that is. Most of us, we think, oh, the government's going to take care of us. Tell me how important it is for private people to get involved.
Well, it's very important. You know, there's only so much government money, only so many firemen, policemen, Homeland Security people, but we have private industry. Big corporations, chemical facilities in New Jersey, refineries in New Jersey. We need to work with them to make these, like I just talked about the railroad, a public-private partnership. Everybody has to bring something to the table. Government can't do it alone. And industry in New Jersey has been excellent. And the other way we're working with them is the Homeland Security funds, which come out to each county, are allowed to be used to protect critical infrastructure in your community, to protect a facility from terrorism, to set up buffer zones, to set up cameras, so that we are working with them together. And working with them together, we will be able to make New Jersey safer.
So if you have something in your county that you think may be a target, you can work on getting protection for
That's
that
correct.
particular. Now, you're also involved with a lot of legislation to do with kids. And we saw the clip before about the 14-year-old. Tell us more about that.
Yes, you know,
tanning.
Cancer, skin cancer, melanoma, is the least survivable cancer of all forms of cancer, and has the least amount of money and research spent on it. So we in Nutley have a foundation called the Geltrude Foundation. Started after a man that got skin cancer, soccer coach, great father, involved in Nutley for years, died of a cancerous melanoma. Wasn't discovered till late, and because it's under the skin, it travels the fastest through your body. It's the fastest cancer killing cancer out there.
And you think as you see it, you can get rid of it quickly.
That's correct, but you can't.
Oh.
By the time you found it, it's already spreading through your body. That's why you need to get checked regularly, and we can do a whole segment on that. But the point of the bill that I did was sun tanning booths. We've just passed it. No one under 14 can go in sun tanning booths in New Jersey anymore. People say, well, they go out in the sun. Well, you'd have to spend 20 minutes in a booth is like spending 8 hours in the sun. And when you go out in the sun,
the exposure is very, very quick.
The exposure is intense.
And their skin is so fresh and young.
That's correct. And the younger the skin, the more susceptible. You actually, when you are growing up and your skin is so fresh and it's delicate, you are actually setting yourself up later in life, whether you'll get a cancerous melanoma or not.
It can be determined from that young.
That's correct. Well, that's because you're damaging your skin cells early in life. And actually, it can happen later in life from the damage you did earlier. So we did legislation that says under 14 years old, you cannot go to a sun tanning booth. 17 or under, basically 18 and under, between 14 and 18, 14 and 17, I should say, you have to get parental consent to go in the sun tanning booth.
That makes sense.
Over 18, of course, if you want to do that, and not heed the warnings, that's up to you.
That's up to you. Now, what are some of the penalties if a tanning salon is caught letting a younger person go in there? Are there severe penalties for that?
Yes, and that's by the State Department of Health. They inspect for that. They check the records and follow that up and would issue.
And there will be a fine, I guess, for something like that?
And there'll be a fine to that company, to that booth. They could put the booth out of service. They could close them down for a certain amount of time. That's all assessed through the State Department of Health, actually.
Right, so it's something for people to be aware of.
Right. We need to make sure our young children know this. In fact, the Geltrude Foundation just did a program for like 5,000 youths in Tom's River, New Jersey. The governor is going to do a public service announcement with them, and David Wright from the Mets is going to be involved.
Oh, I love the Mets.
Lance Armstrong is going to be involved, and we're doing a whole piece that's going to go nationwide now, making people aware of cancerous melanoma.
Now, did they talk about the importance of sunscreen and using the heavier sunscreens when they are exposed to the sun?
Yes, and actually, I'm using the Geltrude Foundation, but there's also other melanoma foundations, but I happen to be involved with this one. They have a whole thing you can find on the web for that, and it's very important to use sunscreens, to watch yourself, and I can tell you that I walk up with people now and I'll see a mark and I'll go, did you ever get that checked? Because I now know how dangerous it is. I would never use sunscreens. I now, if I'm going to be in the sun, I put sunscreens on. My wife would say, "Let me put sunscreen on Eric, our son."
Yeah.
And I'd say, "Oh, we're going out for a couple of minutes." Now I go,
fine.
"Did you put the sunscreen on?"
Right, because now you're aware of it.
Because now I'm aware of it. We need to make sure we're protecting all people.
I guess anything, even from wearing a hat, will protect you from the sun. I mean, so many different ways, you know.
Actually, we just did a fundraiser for the Geltrude Foundation of sunscreen clothing. There are actually clothing that actually has UV protection.
Really?
Shirts that you could buy, clothing.
I didn't hear about that
Yes,
yet.
actually, and I was one of the models actually.
All
in
right,
the,
modeling for us
competition.
now,
My
too.
son wore a bathing suit and a board shirt that's UV protection. So when you're out, you can wear a bathing suit and a board shirt that is UV protection instead of just no protection whatsoever.
So it makes a difference, and that can make a difference in quality of life, too, for people in New Jersey, of course.
100%.
Tell me also about the prescriptions. You've been involved with legislation to do with prescriptions to also protect our children.
Yes. Actually, if you go to the drugstore and you're trying to buy some pseudoephedrines or things over the counter, you now get a card, and you have to go and you have to sign and put your driver's license and name and your address.
Yes.
Actually, I introduced that legislation. It's one piece that I've done because that's how children were able to make crack. Actually, in South Jersey, kids had bought enough pseudoephedrines and stuff, and they were driving around making crack in a soda bottle in a car.
That is scary.
And they cook it. It actually creates pressure. And as it created pressure, they drive around the car so they couldn't be caught. They'd crack the cap, the gas would release out the window, and they keep around driving, cooking this till it became crack in a soda bottle.
How do they learn these things?
It's on the internet.
Oh, I guess that's right.
It's on the internet.
Every kid grows up with the internet now.
And actually, the car was pulled over for a motor vehicle violation. They stuffed it under the seat, and the bottle exploded. And some people were injured because it's actually like a chemical.
Wow.
Irritation, eyes, ears, throat, things like that. So my law, what it does not allow you to go in and buy a case of pseudoephedrine at a time anymore. You're limited. And also, so we're tracking that, and we're hopefully protecting our youth from the availability of going out and making those products.
Now, do the pharmacies work with each other, too, to make sure that they're not going different pharmacies, to try to get a little bit?
They turn those records in, that's correct, and they're tracking.
That's great, so they're tracking it.
That's great.
Any other legislation that you want our audience to know about that is upcoming and things that you're working on?
I have so much different legislation, I hate to say in the hopper, but we're working on...
There's probably so many
We're
things.
on a break right now, so we're,
That's good. You need a break sometimes.
We're on the break from Trenton, and actually we were just meeting, but I have some key pieces. Another tax bill I'm working on, actually, and I just met with the governor's office on it, and I want to get it fast-tracked. When you take a construction permit out and do an addition on your house, that information needs to make it to the tax office because you're taxed on that addition. And that's taxes for the community that they're losing, actually. So I just did a piece of legislation that's going to mandate that when the construction office finalizes these permits, within a week they have to get into the tax office to get that addition taxed. Now you might say, gee, that's unfair, but that's saving others tax dollars. If you're doing the work and you're not being taxed fairly on that, others are going to pay.
In the long run.
So we're doing a bill to track that as part of it. I work in the construction office. I know how many permits are done.
You know what's going on.
And I know what's going on.
Assemblyman Scalera, we're going to start wrapping up. We only have 2 minutes left, so why don't we give your contact information?
Sure.
If any of your constituents or anybody in our audience have questions for you, why don't you give us your phone number and your email address?
Sure. My phone number is at my assembly office is 973-667-4431. And it's Assemblyman Scalera at njledge.org.
Yes.
And feel free to contact me any questions. We need to, what I try and sell a message, we're always talking about taxes. We're always talking about charity care for hospitals. I like to talk about quality of life. That's protecting our children. That's helping autistic children. That's protecting us with homeland security. Because if we don't do those other things, we're not really looking out for the citizens of New Jersey. So
that's all of that. And again, anybody who has questions on any of the quality of life issues that you're working on, they can contact you. Thank you so much, Assemblyman Scalera, for being with us on Meet the Leaders. It's been a pleasure, and I love your passion.
Thank you.
I can see that you love your job, and that's great for the people you're representing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us on Meet the Leaders. I'm Debbie Duhame. Thank you to Assemblyman Scalera for joining us today, and please join us again next time.